LifeSpa.com, where we prove ancient medical wisdom with modern science. And today I want to finish up our series on the five senses, how the five senses, avenues of consciousness, are actually not only to make us aware of the outside world, but more importantly, more deeply aware of our inner world, how we can be more aware of perhaps the most powerful part of us, which is the most subtle part of us. And the science is pretty amazing. And in Ayurvedic medicine, the concept, what you see, you become, is a very old Vedic saying, suggesting that what we actually see or put our attention on, we literally become. This is now well documented with hard science. What we visualize, we see. We know the science shows that when we watch repetitive violence again and again and again on TV, movies, video games, it literally changes our microbiome. Your microbiome has a genetic code. There's more DNA in your microbiome than there is in you. Your genetic code is transferred from the bugs in your gut to your genetic code through a process called horizontal transfer, which means that your genetic material is being altered by the microbiology. So think about this for a second. We are exposed to all kinds of things in the world. That information is extremely important to our survival on a genetic level. If we keep getting repetitive, reinforced messages, we will horizontally transfer that information to our genetic code from our microbiome. Our microbiome, our gut bugs, feel everything. They hear everything. In this Facebook Live, I want to talk about the sight, seeing what you see, you become, and hearing what you hear, you become. There's also science showing that when you listen to music, it literally changes and alters your microbiome. So these two senses, all of them, in fact, are directly impacting your microbiome and altering the genetic information in that microbiome, which then transfers that information to your genetic code. And then your DNA literally remembers all of that input. And if we get enough of it, it changes the genetic code and possibly even acquire a gene to support this new crazy thing that we seem to be exposed to. If we watch violent activities, traumatic events on TV, 24-hour news cycles, what we see, we become, the old Vedic saying, is actually well backed by science, which makes it really important for us to understand what we see is very important. What we allow ourselves to be exposed to is very, very important. The science shows that when you're exposed to more violent and traumatic events, we have science that shows that it decreases the sensitivity. Your brain becomes less sensitive to that. We become less empathetic to other people. We have less pro-social behavior. In other words, being less social in the world. We have a much decreased or blunted emotional response to that stress. And it can be reversed, which is really cool, which was another really deep Ayurvedic concept, which is that if you expose yourself to what Ayurvedic called positive environment, happy, joyful, pleasant things called the sattvic environment, love, giving, joy, peace, calm, nature, beautiful things, it actually changes your genetic code in a positive way. And the science actually shows that to be true. So if you watch pro-social, positive video games, it actually reverses all these things. It increases empathy, increases pro-social behavior. It increases your brain sensitivity to the environment, all of which is very, very important. And even studies with war vets who obviously had post-traumatic stress syndrome, no doubt have seen way too much that has altered them in a way that they have to take time to recover from that and reboot and restore a healthy microbiome, which would be better served done by exposing themselves with positive, reinforcing, loving, kind environment, or that kind of people and environment around them. Even journalists who are exposed to images that they see when they're reporting on news things, they have actually had post-traumatic stress as a result of seeing those images. Again, it affects the ability for our genes to continue to respond to life in a happy-go-lucky, giving, kind, loving way, we start to change the microbiome and we start to change genetic code to be more aggressive, more stressed, more on guard, more worried. Music therapy, this is the Mozart effect, something where they actually play Mozart music for 10 to 15 minutes, raises the IQ by 10 points. It actually has been shown to increase spatial reasoning compared to listening to relaxation tape or just being in silence. So it's very powerful. Another effect they did in Austria and Berlin, one sanitation department was playing the Mozart tune, the magic flute, consistently 24/7 to the sewage plant. And it actually, what their studies show, it actually changed the microbiome to be more aggressively at breaking down the sewage, which is how we get rid of sewage with bugs. That's what a septic field does. That's how it works. It changed it, and they were actually in both Berlin and in Austria, they're actually looking at 1,000 euros savings per month from doing this, which is pretty amazing. Music, what you hear, can change the plasticity of your brain, make your brain more plastic. It's been shown to increase cognitive function. It's been shown to increase self-confidence, emotional sensitivity, increase concentration, the ability to concentrate. But the problem with music and sound is Spotify did a study and they found out that people stop listening to music after 33 years old. And Alzheimer's patients have been shown to restore significant amounts of their memory by listening to music that they did when in their youth. So one strategy is to find ways to find beautiful music to listen to. There's all types of therapies out there suggesting that we can change our development of our brain, the cognitive function of our brain, just with music therapy. It's a very, very important thing. Music therapy in India, called Gandharva Ved, the original music therapy, where different ragas played at different times of the day to entrain our circadian rhythms. This is a beautiful, incredible, beautiful concept. Studies show that some of these Indian classical ragas with sitar and that can actually change the microbiome in a positive way and increase the effectiveness of an antibiotic, increase the sensitivity of your intestinal skin, which is, what at the end of the day, it's what it's all about, because that's where your bugs live. And that's where this awareness is highlighted. It's our internal subtle awareness happens in our gut first and then to our brain. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these articles, which tons of science on the different, all the five senses. This week we posted one on sound and on the site and all the science and the benefits of that. Please go to LifeSpa.com to read those articles. I think they're quite fascinating. Hopefully a motivator for us to realize that our senses are powerful tools to take us inward, to search and be aware of inner space, and to highlight that experience of inner space by realizing what we see, we become. What we smell, we become. What we hear, we become. What we taste, we become. What we touch, we become. We literally become that through the impact of that exposure, sensory exposure to our microbiome, and then laterally transferring that genetic material, which carries that impulse, to our genetic code. That's hard science, something we should all be more aware about and be aware about how we use and what we allow our senses to be exposed to. This is ancient wisdom, now backed by some pretty incredible modern science. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Dr. John Douillard.